Change is never easy, but it is necessary for growth. There have been some recent changes when it comes to my career as a Pilates instructor, and since I share so much about my career with you guys, I wanted to provide some life updates on what's been going on behind the scenes. If you've been here for a while, you know all the different aspects of my job. I teach privates and group classes at a boutique studio here in Miami. I run my own Pilates business, Pilates on the Green. I'm the social media manager for another Pilates business, along with other endeavors like my Etsy shop and my YouTube channel. Recently, there has been more of a demand for me to open up my schedule at the studio where I teach privates and group classes at, along with being more available to provide coverage for other instructors on a more consistent basis. Without me being more available for the studio's needs, there was no longer going to be a place for me at this studio. So I had to look at all aspects of my career and my life and where I'm at as a Pilates instructor, and it was time to make some tough decisions. Option one was to make myself more available for the studio, which would ultimately just end up taking away from running Pilates on the Green, or ultimately just end up being too much on my plate. Something would either go on the back burner, or I would end up drowning trying to juggle everything that I have going on, which would ultimately end up with me being burnt out. After all, I did change careers from a corporate job to being a Pilates instructor because I did want work-life balance. Option two was to part ways with the studio that I've been at for over 2.5 years that has the most amazing clients, the most special energy, the most beautiful souls of fellow instructors, and it's rare to find a studio as special as this one. It checked all the boxes. It really is such a special place, and I didn't want to let that go because it is so rare to find. So after a lot of anxiety and overthinking, I found some clarity. And now praying doesn't have to be your thing, but I prayed a lot. And once I did make a decision, I felt like a weight was lifted off of my shoulders and I felt at peace with my decision. All this being said, I am parting ways with the studio that I teach privates and group classes at here in Miami. After speaking with the owner, we decided it would be best to transition my classes to another instructor who is looking to build up their schedule and is going to be available for more of the studio's needs that I was not available to offer. As a happy medium, I do still have a key to the studio so that hopefully in the future, if my schedule permits, I can hop in from time to time and cover for other instructors. And I love that this is an option because it means that it's not a door closed. The door is very, very open, and I can still keep a relationship with this studio. I can help out in the future when my schedule permits. And it's not just a straight up goodbye. It's more of, I will see you guys later. The great thing is that now there will be no expectations of when I am available to cover. It will be based off of when my schedule permits. But I think it's such a beautiful thing that I'm keeping this door open because the last thing that I wanted to do was burn bridges with such a special place. Now, before I dive into what's coming next for my career, I did want to take a moment to go over some best practices because I know a lot of my subscribers here on YouTube are Pilates instructors or Pilates instructors in training, and you find yourself in these same shoes one day where you find yourself parting ways with the studio. You have a little bit of guidance from my most recent experience. Number one is to offer a big enough notice. I offered 6 weeks, and while that wasn't taken on the studio's end, I wanted to make sure that there was plenty of time for this transition to happen so that the owner isn't stressed out with all of the changes. It can be very stressful as a studio owner when an instructor is leaving, and the last thing I wanted was for there to be any type of rush, and I just felt that it was only right to offer that amount of time. So my advice to you is to offer, minimum 2 weeks, but for Pilates studios in specific, I think offering more, maybe even 4 to 6 to up to 2 months, it could be very, very helpful, and it shows that you care and you're not just like, okay, peace out. Of course, it depends on the situation, but that's my first tip for you. Tip number 2 is to be open and transparent transparent from the get-go. This was a conversation that the owner and I did have in the past, so it came as a shock to no one when these tough decisions were made. But from the moment I met this owner, she knew that I had other Pilates endeavors going on, specifically with running my own Pilates business. There was no confusion, there was no mysteries, and I'm very glad that everything was always out in the open. My intentions were always very clear, and she knew that I had other priorities that I was juggling. The more that you are open and transparent about your intentions and just approaching everything with a good heart, the less likely you will burn any bridges with the studio. Number 3 is to respect the studio's needs and their clientele. I was very specific with my choice of words when I was saying goodbye to my clients, because even though I do have my own Pilates business, the last thing that I wanted to do was make it seem like I was trying to poach the clients or have them come see me after I left. That is not my intention, and that was never my intention. Keep things professional, and if you are leaving to go to another studio or maybe to do your own thing as an instructor, just make sure that it's very separated and that you are not trying to steal any clients. Approach it with a good heart. And speaking of your heart, the 4th tip that I have for you is to listen to your heart. Now listen, this was a decision that I lost multiple nights of sleep over. I was extremely anxious throughout this whole process and transition, and I think that it speaks wonders knowing that it felt like that weight was lifted off of my shoulders, and I found a sense of peace once I did come to my decision. But my advice to you is to not rush into making any of these decisions. Let them marinate, give it time, and the right answer will present itself to you when the time is right. The most important thing is that you don't rush into anything. The anxiety will happen. It happened to me, and it's something that, you will grow from. The last tip that I have for you is very silly, but it's to cry when you need to. Now listen, I bawled my eyes out the day before I had to say goodbye to my clients, day before my last day. I was extremely sad knowing that I had to say goodbye to such special people that some of them I met my very first day at the studio. So I've been seeing them for 2.5 years, and it was hard. There's nothing easy about it. And I think it's almost like going through a grieving process. So allow yourself the space to go through that grieving process and cry if you need to. It is okay. All right. So what's next then? Well, when one door closes, another one opens. Now with some open time on my schedule, it's official. I am gearing up to open my home Pilates studio for family, friends, referral-based clients, and Pilates on the Green Club members. My home studio that I'm currently in will no longer be just a space for filming classes for my online studio. It is going to be a space where I'm going to be seeing clients. Yay! I am going to be ordering a reformer this month, and once it arrives, I'm going to start slowly building everything out. But the great thing is that I can start seeing these clients on my own schedule and my own accord without having the expectations or the pressure of having to be available when time is needed from someone else. It's going to be based off of me and my schedule, which I think is going to work great for everything that I currently have going on. And now I knew this day would come eventually. This was in my long-term plans. I knew I always did want to open up a home Pilates studio, but now it's just happening a little quicker than I thought it would, which is scary, but also very exciting at the same time. I believe that the more you teach Pilates in person, the better an instructor you become, and teaching in person is a priority for me. I don't want to only teach online. For some instructors, that works, and it's great. There is no right or wrong here. But for me specifically, I love teaching in person, and I honestly think it's irreplaceable. Having that one-on-one approach, being able to provide tactile feedback. At the end of the day, I chose to become a Pilates instructor because I enjoy helping people. And a lot of the times I can't meet my online club members. And while I'll get a nice email or DM of how much they enjoyed the classes, which is so special, there is something so irreplaceable about physically seeing the growth of the Pilates practice within your clients, just hearing their success stories and just seeing them grow. So for me specifically, I didn't want to let that go. I don't want to stop teaching in person. So it's why I'm going to end up ordering this reformer. This reformer will also be for my personal use along with seeing clients. So I'm very excited that I'm going to be able to hop on the reformer whenever I want. Once my new reformer arrives, I'm going to be setting up the space, and eventually I'm going to be ordering a full suite of Pilates equipment. I'm thinking, hopefully in the future, a ladder barrel, a chair, and then either a tower or a Cadillac, depending on how things are going and how the space is being used. But I am starting out with just the reformer because, reformers are expensive and this is a hefty investment. So I will share more about how I'm able to afford it, and I'll walk you guys through my finances for it in case it's helpful. But I'm starting out with just the reformer, and then I will slowly build on from there in the future. Now, which reformer I'm getting, it is going to be the Balanced Body Allegro 2. I was trained on balanced body equipment, and I've only ever taught on balanced body equipment. So I figured it would just be right to get a balanced body reformer. It's what I'm familiar with and comfortable with. And I also think that the quality of the reformers are unmatched. I have hopped on other reformers and I just always end up loving balanced body. So I got some samples in terms of the fabrics that I was exploring. I'm probably going to end up doing the black upholstery for the reformer, but I did want to see how the sage green looked for maybe the ladder barrel and the chair. But this is all just very new, still working through some things. But once the reformer arrives, I am going to be building it out. And I've never built a reformer before, so I will share that here on YouTube and we'll build it together. You'll help me, hopefully. But once it arrives, I'll also talk about all the specs that I chose for this reformer. I did a lot of research and I wanted to make sure that I chose the right reformer for me and for my needs. So there are plenty of options on the Balanced Body website, and in the coming weeks, I will explain my thought process and why I chose the Allegro 2. Last thing I want to mention is I am also working with some interior designers to really elevate the space and get it ready for when clients walk in the door so it can feel like a nice, special home studio. All of this is going to be a work in progress, but I am going to be bringing you along for every step of the way. I am just so beyond excited for this next chapter in my life as a Pilates instructor, and it does feel like the timing is right to transition into my own home studio. It honestly still feels like a dream come true. Like I still can't believe that I'm going to have my own reformer. I'm still processing that because it's all very exciting, but this was a very challenging past couple of weeks going through these changes, and the more that time passes, the more I'm just getting more and more excited for this next phase. For the rest of December, I did decide to take things slow. I'm not filling in my schedule with the time that I was in the studio just so I can unplug, relax, recharge. I still will have other things going on with work this month, but at least it lightens my schedule a little bit so that I can find some balance now throughout the holiday season. I'll still continue to be posting here on YouTube once a week, so you can expect that. But I am very excited to find the time to recharge this month so that I can start fresh in 2025. So that's it. That's the update. If you have any questions on this transition or on the best practices that I touched upon when leaving a Pilates studio, feel free to send me a DM, send me an email, drop it in the comments. I'm always more than happy to help answer you guys. I'll still see you next week for another marathon training vlog, but thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a great December and a nice and restful holiday season with your loved ones. Cheers!